So clip 1, Alistair says, is the extremely strange way that Sauron regains a mortal form after being killed by his own orcs following Morgoth's death.
What? That doesn't sound right.
In a nutshell, Alistair.
What?
Sorry, honestly, did they do this?
Wait, so is there like
I don't know.
a Labour uprising of orcs?
Yeah, the Labour Party unionised
Made
the
up of
The
orcs.
orcs have unionised.
Okay.
They have little orc union reps.
Nick Lynch's-
To be fair, in Peter Jackson's representation of the Lord of the Rings, there is an orc union rep talking to Saruman, basically.
Oh, yes. It was like a HR middle manager sort of guy. Yeah.
Yeah, but
So there is such a thing as orc HR.
that just reminds me of those guys who would go up to Darth Vader in the original trilogy and just tell him something's gone wrong and immediately get murdered.
Right.
Yeah, those guys did nothing wrong.
Yeah, but you see, Saruman doesn't kill the orc because Saruman understands how to inspire leadership in his workers.
Saruman knows how to defer labour to other people, unlike Darth Vader, who's just monopolises all the work.
Apparently in Isengard there's a few skills issues. Or...
In Mordor, when they're gathering the forces on the hillside, there is an orc taskmaster in the extended cut who breaks up the fights that allow Sam and Frodo to slip by. So there is clearly some kind of whip-handed command structure there. But I think we and Peter Jackson are putting much more thought into the world building of an adaptation of Lord of the Rings than the people of Rings of Power, who don't understand that orcs are born from dirt and actually instead think they're Middle Eastern refugees.
Here we are. Here is the first clip. Sauron likes Indian food confirmed.
That's a Boston demon salt.
It's like the Swamp Thing.
This is actually a Fatberg in a London sewer.
It's like a turd.
What happens on a diet of rats?
This is real. This is real things that Amazon spent money on, right?
Is this a compilation or is this how they actually edited it together?
No, they said earlier in the office that they've edited this down as well to save it.
The Indian special effects team worked for minutes on this. Well, that was strange.
That was appallingly goofy.
It was.
So
Wait,
the
what
most
happened?
the most intimidating Dark Lord in all of the Lord of the Rings, who can have his corporeal form destroyed and yet reanimated as a giant flame-breathing eye that sees practically all things and command legions of murderous, bloodthirsty orcs, was born out of some black goo eating a rat. Who thought that was a good idea?
Well, this is Reborn. This is him being reborn because he was already murdered after he failed to meet his union demands, which is exactly what you expect from the most fearsome and menacing warrior who's almost godlike in the land.
It makes him scary, the fact he got run over by a wagon. On purpose as well. For
Sauron
Guys,
being overcome. Oh, sorry, go on, Harry.
I was going to say, I'm going to be honest, and you know the prologue of Fellowship where you see the battle where he gets his finger cut off and he loses the ring and explodes? This is not what I pictured underneath that incredible armor set he was wearing.
Also, you would expect Sauron, with the powers he have, to just go straight and kill her rather than just try and be cunning.
Yeah.
Don't know the way I see it.
And for me, it's just the whole idea that he could ever be overcome or caught by surprise by his own orcs is, it wouldn't even register to an orc that was something that they should do, right? They don't have the dignity to even imagine having a better life for themselves beyond what they do.
Orcs can't even conceive of being revolutionaries.
No,
Okay.
they can't.
So they're not leftists, at least.
But Luca, what you failed to mention with your belief that the orcs couldn't answer the how would you feel if you didn't have breakfast this morning question, is the fact that the people that run the Rings of Power think that there is absolutely no chance that even in a fantasy setting there can be a race of creatures which are essentially evil.
Right.
And it's only that the circumstances placed upon them by the evil, intolerant men and elves who just didn't let enough nice orcs claim asylum in Gondor for some reason, have made them awful, treacherous, man-eating.
They had this internalized Sauronness.
Yeah.
They were actually good, but they had this internalized Sauron.
Why can't they be serving coffee to the Gondorians? That's what I want.
Because one of Tolkien's biggest inspirations for the orcs was the Orkneys from Beowulf, right? Who are obviously it's Anglo for walking corpses, right? And that's where it comes from. It comes straight out of the Anglo-Saxon mythos, and essentially the Orkneys in Beowulf are descendants of Cain, who obviously killed the biblical Abel. So they're literally born out of the sins of, one of the most ancient evils that ever happened on Earth. And that's where Tolkien's idea of them comes from, as orcs. Obviously, they're mentioned as,
Have you considered that actually Mordor is Haiti? And
I hadn't.
reason...
It's actually quite a compelling thesis, to be honest.
The only reason that Mordor is in the sorry state that it's in is because Gondor demanded reparations.
Have you seen how big the walls are in Mordor, though? At least in the films. So I would imagine that Haiti wouldn't need those walls, unless it's keeping people in, of course.
Well, yeah, I was going to
Haiti's got a
say
natural
all of
wall. It's got
the
the
states
water.
bordering Mordor are just the Dominican Republic.
And do you reckon on Connor's point of the breakfast question that's why Mordor's always on fire, just no one could hear the chirping before it was too late?
Chronic lack of fire alarms, that's the problem.
Can I add one more thing on this? I feel that this is the best answer for the Jurassic Park question. They spent so long thinking what they could do, they never asked whether or not they should do it. You should never unveil what Sauron looks like behind the armor, because even if they got some incredibly menacing looking man, it would still be a disappointment. It's like whenever Jason Voorhees takes off the hockey mask and he's just got some sort of learning difficulty, it immediately makes him less scary. Just don't do it.
Exactly. It's massively anticlimactic, and it reminds me of Star Wars, the seventh one, with Kylo Ren. The minute he took his mask,
right?
I don't know.
It's Adam Driver. Oh no!
Pretty terrifying.
But
it's like a modern day hippie or something.
I would say, actually, on Connor's point, I take your thing about the
hipster.
It takes away the threat of
That
seeing
huge
him.
nose.
It's fine. Seeing him out of his armor, but in order to tell the story of the Second Age, you have to show him outside of his armor, because obviously, like Gandalf in a way, that they do have the ability to shapeshift, and Sauron's main guise in the Second Age as Anatar, the Lord of Gifts, is very reminiscent of Odin from Norse mythology, right? It's that thing that because Odin had this magic ring called Draupnir, and every 9th day it would drip 8 other rings, and through using all of these rings, he would basically bind the 9 realms to his dominion. So
like the European Union, something.
Yeah, I just don't think that. So it's just that thing that in order to tell a story, he has to be out of that armor. But yeah, they just didn't do it well at all.
I do
okay,
appreciate
in that case, sorry, Connor, I want to actually add to your point. In that case, I think they should do it in a dark room where visibility wasn't good. Why are you laughing? Why are you smirking?
I do appreciate the point, Luca, but yet again, you say that as if they genuinely intended to tell the story of the Second Age, whereas all of the liberties and bastardizations that they've conducted have led them to the point of it being so indefensible. They've just thrown their hands up and said, well, there's no such thing as canon anyway.
Oh, man. I went off on one about that on Twitter. I really got angry. I'm like, I've not seen a second of the show and I'm fuming.
Well, so did Tolkien. I mean, Tolkien once wrote a letter saying that if you stray away from canon, you've desecrated the author's vision. It's like, wow, how prophetic.
Yes.
So Samson's pulled up an article here. He just had it up somewhere. Basically, a Lord of the Rings expert says there's no such thing as canon, which I don't know how you can claim that, really, considering that Tolkien wrote it as such. I mean, The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings trilogy are meant to be canonical.
Yes.
This is the same kind of argument that was always used for the Star Wars sequels as where they say, oh, well, you don't have to worry about Admiral Holdo blasting a massive ship into all of the fleet because it's all made up. It's space wizards for children, right? The problem with that is, okay, if there's no such thing as canon, why can't Gandalf pull out an M15 and blow away Sauron? Why can't Gandalf magic up a nuclear bomb and just drop it on Mordor? Why can't literally anything happen? Well, it's because within a story, there needs to be established rules, and the canon and the history of that story, the backstory, needs to be part of those established rules so you can understand and buy into what you're watching in the first place. It's such a cop-out answer, which just means I'm a shit writer. Leave me alone, I'm a shit writer.
Yes.
Not only that, sorry, but there is also the meta reason of, yes, Tolkien could amend his own canon, which is the justification used by this midwit of a Tolkien expert here, because he is Tolkien. You're not Tolkien. You have inherited the mantle of something else that other people have bought and acted as custodians for decades, so that you could have a career pillaging the corpse of a greater man's work. So this is all just post hoc justification for you bastardizing an excellent story for your own ideological ends. You're not Tolkien.
Postmodernism. And postmodernism, because all this is about, the death of the author. It doesn't matter what Tolkien wanted to convey. It's all about what is politically expedient at the moment.
Yes.
Shall we?
Could have the Eagles throw a tactical nuke.
Mm-hmm. They just drop it in Mount Doom and blow up all of Mordor.
I would actually just press one more thing on that point of, whether or not there is a canon. And obviously the simple answer is yes, what's written on the page of, as you say, The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. But also, when you think about something like the Silmarillion, that was published after Tolkien died. And the reason that was able to be published, and all of the subsequent works of The Fall of Gondolin and The Children of Húrin and these sorts of stories, is because Tolkien's son Christopher dedicated over 45 years of his life to trying to honour his father's memory and what his father believes in. Went through every scrap of paper, every note that his father left behind, to make sure that he could create a canon that was entirely in keeping with what his father would have wished for. And so, for this guy to just say, well, there's not really a canon, is the height of disrespect. But then, you know what? They would be disrespectful of Christopher Tolkien, because the fact of the matter is, it was Christopher who, right up until he passed away around 2020, I think it was, at the age of 95, had been holding the forces of darkness at bay, right, and all the corporations and everyone who wanted to get the rights to Tolkien's work so they could bastardize it like Amazon had done. And it was Christopher holding back those floodgates, and then the moment that he's gone, rings of power.
To watch the full video, please become a premium member at lotuseaters.com.